Liberal Senator James Paterson spoke with ABC News Radio's Jamie Travers.
A drowning man will grab anything that's floating by, and it's very clear that Anthony Albanese's leadership is under pressure, and so what he's decided to do is lash out and have personal attacks masquerading as foreign policy in a clear attempt to appeal to his left-wing base. I mean, we've had unions releasing damaging polling and calling for an end to his leadership, and I think he thinks that attacking the Prime Minister about Donald Trump on his final day in office is a political winner.
Surely it's the role of the opposition leader to work on, to propose policy, to hold the government to account. Is that not what Mr Albanese is doing there?
Absolutely it is, but that should be real-world policy. I mean, it was only a few weeks ago that Anthony Albanese called on the Prime Minister to intervene in domestic American political affairs and to directly call President Trump and tell him to leave office. Now, that was widely condemned by foreign policy experts and even by many of his own colleagues who anonymously aired their gripes in the media. I think he's really flailing around and uncomfortable on foreign policy. This is his first foreign policy speech in 2 years as leader. It's clearly not his areas of comfort and expertise, and he doesn't quite know how to articulate himself in this difficult terrain.
Just on the Trump administration, do you believe that it has been a conventional administration, a conventional ally of Australia?
In terms of its policy, absolutely. I think the Australian-US alliance has never been stronger. We've been incredibly supported in the region. We've been incredibly supported in the difficult times we've been through with our largest trading partner, China, and that's been very welcome. And I expect those policy settings, those underlying policy settings, will largely be continued and upheld by the Biden administration. Just today, Lloyd Russell, the nominee of the Secretary of Defence Lloyd Austin, the nominee of Secretary of Defence of the Biden administration, articulated his support for allies like Australia, Japan and South Korea and others when it comes to dealing with an aggressive and assertive Chinese Communist Party.
Do you not see that some Australians might agree with Mr Albanese's view of the Trump administration, at least domestically?
I'm sure there are many Australians who don't approve of Donald Trump personally, may dislike the way he's conducted himself as president, but a Prime Minister or an alternative Prime Minister doesn't have the luxury to give in to those sort of impulses. What a Prime Minister always must do is to protect Australia's national interest. And our national interest is secured by a strong relationship with our principal ally and a strong relationship with whoever is in the White House. And if Anthony Albanese can't resist the urge to engage in partisan attacks, then I don't think it shows that he's well up to the job as Prime Minister.
One of his criticisms of Mr Morrison was not in condemning President Trump over his involvement in the riot at the Capitol building. Do you think that was fair?
Well, I think it's incumbent on an Australian Prime Minister to say when they disagree and to say when they're concerned about events in the United States, and the Prime Minister's done both of those things. The contrast here is, when has Anthony Albanese called on the Prime Minister to criticise Xi Jinping? Xi Jinping has done things far worse than any American president and has done things that are directly detrimental to Australia's national interest. And yet Anthony Albanese has never called on the Prime Minister to attack or criticise him personally, and the Prime Minister has never done so because it wouldn't be appropriate. It is not the role of an Australian Prime Minister to be providing running commentary on other world leaders.
You yourself lead a bipartisan group, a group across the aisle in Parliament known as, well, unofficially as the Wolverines, which has a rather strong stance on China. You have criticised President Xi. Is that the place for a government MP to do so, if not a leader?
I think it's entirely appropriate for Australian parliamentarians in a bipartisan way to speak up in defence of our national interest, in defence of our values, in defence of our sovereignty. That's what groups that I've been part of have sought to do, including the Inter-Parliamentary Alliance on China, which I'm co-chair with, along with Labor Senator Kimberley Kitching, with hundreds of other parliamentarians from 19 parliamentary democracies around the world. It's not about our personal approval or disapproval of other world leaders. It's about standing up for our own interests when they've been encroached upon.
Liberal Senator James Paterson speaking with ABC News Radio's Jamie Travers.